We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
With Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, and a little bit of a good morning to you. So, yesterday, I am on my way home, right around the corner from my house. Kind of a gloomy day. Now, earlier in the day, yesterday, on Wednesdays, as you know, I shoot 2 of my other show. All right. So just a lot going on. And this Israeli thing, I can't get away from it. Now, all these people that I've had booked, all right, were coming on for something different. But for instance, I had Dinesh D'Souza, big name. I get a lot of big names over here. And sometimes they're great. And sometimes, look, I'm not trying to shit all over everybody, but they're more than disappointing. Okay? Because I'm telling you right now, so many people don't get it. They got no clue what the truck is going on right now. And it's upsetting. It's really upsetting. You know, my interview with D'Souza airs tonight, and in it I tried to articulate, in fact I did articulate, not tried to, that one of the reasons that we're in the position that we are is that post-World War II, we started going underground, we started using compartmentalization, born classified, we empowered the intelligence agencies, there's no accountability, and he brushed it all off. It's all Obama's fault. Obama did it. And then, like, in the interview, the guy admits that he is part of the reason, and he pushed for the type of authoritarianism, the type of homeland security stuff that's going on now against American people. But he just can't accept that the plot wasn't there before Obama. But you know how absurd that is? Do you know how insane that is? Do you know whether he's genuine or not? And actually, I think he is. And here's the deal. Talented guy, huge following. A lot of people watch 10,000 Mules. And to my boy Pasta Jardula's credit, he said, yeah, great, but the solution sucks. He's like, what, we need cameras on all these things and we need more surveillance for everything? No, we need to get rid of the machines altogether. No, we need to peel off the Band-Aid and say Homeland Security was a bad idea. Like, what are we talking about? So that gets me back to driving. Because like I said yesterday, had another gentleman on that show. Again, probably a well-meaning guy, smart guy. But when it came, he wanted to talk. Everyone wants to talk about Israel and Palestine. D'Souza wants to talk about. I'll tell you right now, I got nothing to say if we're talking about killing more people. And other than stop. And this, well, they started it. Guys, I'm going to, you know what? We're going to do it live. We're going to do it live.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
So what we're doing live is I'm typing in the Quad Cities total population. Okay? Take it good. That Davenport is not where I live. Okay? But Davenport is 1/4 of the Quad Cities. What is the population of all of the Quad Cities? There you go. Little under 400,000 people. Little under 400,000. Now, I live, for me, this is the densest area that I've ever really lived in for a long time. I was out in Collingswood, New Jersey. Not the best place, out by Camden. That similarly dense. Trains right into Philadelphia, it said. But I was there for like a couple months as a kid. You know, this is the most people that I've been around. 400,000, around there. I go to events. Last night, I took my niece to her volleyball clinic. Tons of kids. I go to the sporting events, just like I know a lot of you do. Tons of kids. There are 2 million people in Gaza. 2 million. Okay? It's 5 times plus the amount of people that live around me. Now, I want you to... Now, there's a military arsenal at Rock Island on the Mississippi River. A lot of people work there. I don't know exactly how many, but let me go ballpark, because it's a military unit, that some 500 to 1,000 people are involved in that. Maybe. So let's max 1 out of every 382 human beings that live here. How many people are really in Hamas? How many people carried out that attack against the rave kids and in the villages? You just shut the power off on 2 million people. You cut communications on 2 million people. 2 million. You know how many of those are children? That's going to solve it? We're solving it right now? I'm like, this is insane. And people are so far gone that they can't do what I just did and put themselves in the position of other human beings that right now are also indiscriminately being killed. Is that a tough reality for people to understand? I know you don't want, I know you want to think we're getting the bad guys. But the thing is that you understand that you're not necessarily getting the bad guys in that Ukrainian conflict either. Like, why do civilians deserve to die in these wars for the predator class? For a bunch of nepotistic losers and their minions. I'll never understand it. And you know, I had somebody in the comment section say, you know, you say all this, but if it was your kid or your niece or somebody you loved at that rave, you'd be out for blood. Probably right. I can't help but understand that human emotion. Probably be out for blood. But I got to tell you, I'd be taking the step back and asking who I'm really out for blood for. Who am I really out for blood for? Who really caused this? And I keep going back to the fact. It's the fact that Israeli intelligence is, I'm going to illustrate it with my fabled enemies section that apparently everybody, might have forgot about or don't know about. In fact, I just did it over on Twitter. And like, if you guys, you want to help the bird out, X, you go to twitter.com. Again, we're doing it live today. We're doing it live. I don't know if you think you're awake, okay? I put this post out on 9/11. I cut out 2 sections on 9/11 that I thought were really important. Actually, 3 sections. I could have cut out each chapter. I really should have done that and released each chapter on there. But again, I'm working for a living. Did the show on here. I think I interviewed David Icke for the first time that day in over a decade. Just interviewed Icke again. So, 9/11 was an international intelligence operation with role players in Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Okay? Period. It was. And then you needed insiders here to also facilitate that attack. 100%. And if you don't think something similar just happened, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm hesitant to believe any of the media reports. I'm seeing media reports that they've been planning this for 2 years, that all but 5 people knew the entire plan, compartmentalization, who knows. This chapter of Fabled Enemies explains the Dancing Israeli role. So Dancing Israeli, also Amdocs, Comverse, 9/11 Truth Never Forget. And I said, look, anyone who is supporting any nation state or entity killing innocents needs to rethink their position immediately, especially in light of the evidence regarding 9/11 below, and especially with 9/11 being invoked everywhere again. Everywhere again. Hearing it all the time. All the time now. So, look, I can't say it enough. All right? I don't like seeing dead kids. I don't like seeing dead people. I don't like seeing freaking out. It all makes me upset. Like, even in my feed yesterday, okay? I don't have any, like, the auto video play on anything. And the only social media that's on this magic box is X or Twitter. Don't do Facebook, no gramming, not Snapchatting. It's funny, I was talking with somebody yesterday about the scroll. And they were telling me about everybody with the fake lips online, fake lips. I don't really see it. I was like, I don't see that in my feed. She's like, what do you mean you don't see it in your feed? And I scrolled through my feed, I did a screen record, and I showed it to her. You can curate, like, the madness around you. Just want to say that. Okay? But I'm going through my feed, and some auto video played of some girl getting burned alive in this crowd. I caught 2-3 seconds of it. I wanted to puke. It's already ingrained in my brain. I don't know how those weirdos, like, get off on those type of videos. You know, those kind of people that just want to see everything that's horrific? You know, I know somebody in particular. He was actually ex-NYPD cop and probably saw a lot of horrific things, and maybe that's how he dealt with it. But, like, you know, some of those people that things that were on E-Bomb's World or something awful, just no thanks. I don't want to see any of that stuff. It's awful. I don't like seeing human beings get hurt. Crazy. Bringing it around in the first segment before we go to our first break, all the way back to me driving, and everybody's like, what the hell is he talking about? He's ranting. Bad weather, whole 9, huge rainbow. Maybe one of the biggest full rainbows I've ever seen in all my days. So, you know, I'm taking a look at this rainbow. And it's a giant rainbow. It's right around my house. You see all the clouds in the background. Real solid one right there, huh? You usually don't get them post to post, corner to corner like that. Okay? And, not only did I get my phone out to capture the moment, but I just thought to myself, man, we live on this magical planet. I'm sitting here in traffic with a ton of other people. My niece is going to be smiling later when she's playing volleyball. I just found a new place. I'm very excited to move. Like, things, as bad as they are, not only can they always get worse, but there's just something about how awesome we are as a species and how awesome this planet is and how we've been given all this stuff. Why are we trucking it up? I'm going to play a commercial. We're going to go to break. I'm going to come on back. Thumbs it up. Subscribe and share. It is the Thursday show. We're wrapping it up this week already, day after day. Everything moves forward, guys. Moves at a lightning pace. So we will be back after this word from our sponsor.
We interrupt today's programming to bring unfortunate news. Biden's dangerous plan for a digital dollar is underway. Don't be fooled. It won't benefit you. So take action now. The Federal Reserve's phased deployment of FedNow began on July 1st, 2023. Be prepared. This may catch many off guard and put your hard-earned assets in jeopardy. But here's the good news. There's a simple legal tax loophole to opt out of the digital dollar. Speak to someone at American Alternative Assets for a free wealth protection guide and discover how to safeguard your wealth with gold and silver IRAs against a failing dollar and volatile markets. Dial 833, the number 2 USA Gold. Yes, call now, 833-287-2465. This invaluable guide provides precise steps to transfer your IRA or 401k into precious metals without any tax consequences. Don't let Biden force you into using the government's new digital dollar. Call 833, the number 2 USA Gold. Yes, call now, 833-287-2465. Act swiftly, 833-287-2465.
And we are back. I do want to let everybody know that there are some technical difficulties going over at RVM right now. So for the second hour, at least for now, usually it's over at rvmrumble.com. If you want to watch it live, you're going to have to either go, you probably want to go to my Rumble, not just their Rumble. But if you're subscribed to both our Rumbles, it's not a big deal. We push you over to the RVM Rumble, obviously, because there's a lot of great content that rolls through. They play the third hour there. Whereas I'm not going to be playing the third hour. That's where you get one of the premium videos. And remember, it is redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. It's funny. So yesterday, the second hour that played on Rumble is a video got to be 5 years old. This is before Joe Biden's even the nominee as I think the president of the United States. I think it might be even before primary season. But I'm going on about Bill Barr. It's a Bill Barr deep dive. At the very end, I think I plugged like the GoFundMe. Now, I'm pretty sure at that point, that GoFundMe got killed because I remember everything got taken down after January 6th. I checked, I all of a sudden in my email, someone had sent me $25 in a GoFundMe account. I'm going to have to check it a little. Maybe we'll do that live. See if I got my GoFundMe back. After because I got a video on debanking today. That's how they do it to you. But I always think that's funny. So like somebody was watching that second hour, which if you watched the first hour, you knew it was an archive. Plus it looks like a much younger Jason Bermas. Let's be honest. I'm getting older. We all are, man. Day by day, week by week, month by month. You don't get to go backwards, right? So anyway, it's just like, those things are kind of timeless. But anyway, RVM's down right now. Their internet might be out over at the station. So I'm doing the show, obviously. And hopefully by the time that they run the replay or later today, they'll insert this in that replay over there as well. But for now, since they haven't called me, and I hope they do, I hope they get everything going. It's going to be over at my Rumble for the second hour live. And you're going to want to be there for the second hour. I got tons of stuff here. I haven't even really scratched the surface. I haven't even gotten to Sam Husseini and Max Blumenthal, who just are trying to make the point that I'm making. It's like, are we condoning the killing of women and children and civilians? Like, man, I'm not trying to crap on anybody. But again, I talked to somebody again yesterday on my other show where they talked about the God's chosen people thing. God's chosen people? Are we out of our minds? Well, I mean, when I hear shit like that, man, I'm just like, what are you talking about? God's chosen people? Excuse me. If you over there, you guys, all you, or I, or anybody, truly believes in an all-knowing, all-powerful, benevolent entity, okay? A benevolent entity that grants us all free will, all right? There are no God's chosen people except for everybody. We are all God's chosen people. Yeah, that's the whole point of free will, is that we get to choose. Like, out of control. Out of control. So someone said, and I'm like, these people that want to bring in prophecy, no. I mean, think about how insane that is. So, I broke this down for somebody yesterday. I'm like, all right, let's go to the main throes of the books. And again, I'm not shitting on Christians, and I'm not shitting on Jewish people. That's not what this is. But grew up very Christian, emphasis on end times and revelation. And I'll tell you what, as a kid, like before I was 10 and in the church, when they were talking about a new world order or a chipped human populace or the mark of the beast, I thought it was goofy. I rejected it. And but probably by the time I was 12, very atheistic, mocked the Bible, mocked it. But always remember that story that, the Antichrist rises up, and he seems pretty great, and everybody likes him, and then he comes in, and it's the devil, and it's the end times, it's Armageddon, mother trucking Geddon, and things pop off everywhere, right? And the final battle begins. You're just like, whoa, the final battle. So you got one sect of religious people that believe they need to take the Dome of the Rock back and rebuild Solomon's temple so that their Messiah can come, because their Messiah was not Jesus. Now you got another group of people that support those people. They call themselves Christian Zionists, not because they necessarily think they're in support of it, but because they believe that person ends up being the Antichrist and it brings in the end times. It's so anti what I'm all about and what we should be all about. Like whether the prophecies are true or not, these people are going to try to make them true to a certain percentage of the population so they can get them through. That's it. I'm not discounting. I mean, I guess if they're true and prophecy is real and things are predetermined, so be it. I mean, there's not much I can do about that. But I also know I have free will. I have discernment. And I'll say it again. Truth is the ultimate love, and love is the ultimate truth. And I'm going to get down with as much as both as I possibly can, as it's humanly possible. All right. I want to go to these stories first, and then once I go to these stories, man, I'm going to do the Husseini Blumenthal at the White House briefing on the Israeli Hamas Palestine incident right now. But I want to show people this. Our field producer in Gaza just sent this to me. I feel helpless and sick. I'm scared, Abby. I feel I could die any second. I'm so scared for you and your family. What is happening right now? Oh, now Abby did a film on Gaza several years ago. I always wanted to have her on about it. We were in communication behind the scenes. I don't know that I've talked to her for a year or two. I mean, oh my God. I see, and look on the side there. I see Iran, Ric Flair, Chris Rock, and Satan trending. Satan trending. I wonder why I'm getting biblical. Because the invocation of religion is going to be big right now. Most of the people here lost power and internet connections. Again, they cut the power and they cut communications. So we don't know where they hit. Entire neighborhoods are being erased. They've killed 1,200 so far and destroyed massively, and yet they say they have not started yet. We know massacres are coming, and we're sure they're greenlit from the U.S. to kill us all. These are real people. I'm speechless at the genocidal bloodlust we are witnessing. How does the world let this happen? I'm sorry we failed you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I mean, I get upset looking at stuff like this. It's not good. It's not great. And, you know, just like I told you with my brother talking about, this is the next thing you're not going to be able to talk about. Zuckerberg and Musk are warned over Hamas-affiliated content. EU blasts tech giants after proliferation of fake claims being spread on X after terrorists' violent rampage in Israel and are told to remove it and tip off cops. So, I mean, this is the next censor. You wonder how genocide can happen in front of the world. It looks like it's about to. And you can sit there and go, they started it, all you want. You don't know that. Again, you don't know who's on the inside of Hamas. You don't know the game of triple and double agents. You know? What do you think Osama bin Laden was? Like, come on. What do you think Pakistani intelligence is an avenue for? Like, it's all right. Again, that Fabled Enemies, man. I don't know if there's a more important time to watch that film. I don't know. All right. I think we're going to play the Husseini Blumenthal cut. We've had Husseini on this show. Again, props to Red Voice Media for letting me just do my whole thing. You know, have who I want to have on. Talk about what I want to talk about. No editorial meeting like, oh, Jason, you know, it's a pretty sensitive topic. No, none of that. None of that. You know, and that's largely because guys like Ray see that, you know, we did the story yesterday, soaring. War profiteers soaring. Military industrial complex stocks soaring. Soaring. That means this conflict is going nowhere. It's going absolutely nowhere, but on and on and on. And let's pray to God people like Lindsey Graham, who are completely insane, all right, don't get what they want, because he's calling for us to bomb Iran right now, even if they had nothing to do with the Palestinian attack. Even if they had nothing to do with it, Lindsey Graham wants to bomb Iran. Remember that little cute, funny by guys like McCain? I do. I've got a memory of more than 15 fucking seconds. Like, what is going on? I'm going to cool out. See, beginning of the week, I was able to keep my cool a little bit more. It's really going to be tough for me knowing they just shut the power off on 2 million people. And reading stuff like that from Abby Martin. I don't like it. And you shouldn't like it either. And I wish more people would have some semblance of reality of where this could take all of us. Word from our sponsor, coming back to Blumenthal and Husseini after this.
If you're like me and you want to be prepared for the unexpected,
that's where the wellness company's emergency medical kit comes
over
in.
40% of Americans say that they would avoid a doctor or a hospital unless it was a catastrophic situation.
Medical emergency kits with...
The kit contains 8 potentially life-saving medications for you to keep on hand in the event of natural disasters, supply chain shortages, medical emergencies, or like an apocalyptic situation. These are the actual medications that you would need in the event of certain situations. So they've got emergency antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics.
So, Sam Husseini, I want to say good job, because they weren't going to call on him. And he sat there and, this is a supercut. I don't even know how much I'm going to jump in. I kind of want maybe even the gravity of all this. Because again and again and again, the guy from the State Department, wants to have it one way. And then he'll say, I'm just shocked that some of these questions aren't acknowledging the horrific attack by Hamas. I can't acknowledge it enough. Shit gives me nightmares. Okay? Gives me nightmares. Like, just happened and making my life a little uneasy on the sleep. No one wants to see that. Nobody. I mean, I would be disgusted if anybody advocated for that. Going into concerts or schools or sporting events and just killing innocent civilians or taking them hostage. No. In a military deal. No, I can't imagine anybody supporting that. All right. But, it gets twisted that if you dare question what's going on, if you dare say to put the brakes on, and this doesn't mean carte blanche killathon. You dare say you're the bad guy. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. All right, here's Husseini and Blumenthal. Oh, come on, man.
What I would do is
So, all right, apparently, as you saw that, we're going to have to go to my Twitter and play it from there. The ripped version, for some reason, had no audio, and not only had no audio, but then just skipped off into the next one. But that's okay. We're going to do Lindsey Graham first, little Lindsey, and then we'll go to Husseini and Blumenthal. We'll do it live.
What I would do is I would bomb Iran's oil infrastructure. The money financing terrorism comes from Iran. It's time for this terrorist state to pay a price for financing and supporting all this chaos. Yes, if you're the Iranians, if it were up to me, this war escalates, I'm coming after you.
I think that
This war, he wants escalation. Lindsey Graham's never seen a war he doesn't like.
this is what I'm trying to clarify here, because I'm wondering if
Us
what
and
you're...
Israel. Us and Israel.
Us, the United States and
No, I
Israel...
want to be crystal clear.
The United... So let me just understand you, just to be clear. You're saying that you would want the United States and Israel to bomb Iran, even in the absence of direct evidence of their involvement in this attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Yeah. And this guy, right, Syed Erikat, he also asked some really great questions. So, since we're doing it live, and this is how we do it, let's come on down. Let's go over to the Jason Bermas Twitter page if we can. Apparently, maybe we can't. Okay, no, we are here. Okay, so there. Let's see. Scroll it down. Here we go.
The president did mention that Israel ought to abide by international law. Does that, in your view, mean that Israel must end its cutoff of water, electricity, food, and medicine to the people in Gaza?
I will say that, as the president made clear, Israel has suffered from a brutal terrorist attack. Israel has the right to defend itself. It has the right to take action against the terrorists who launched this brutal attack and killed Israeli civilians. It killed American civilians, killed mothers and children and babies and kidnapped children.
And what's Israel doing?
And so
now?
they are going to take action to respond to this terrorist attack and take action to secure their country, and we support them. As the president made clear, we always encourage all of our allies and partners to act in strict accordance with international law. That is what democracies do, and I would just point out that, of course, is not what Hamas did. Let me just finish. That is not what Hamas did in coming into Israel and kidnapping and murdering innocent civilians.
Okay, I understand. I mean, Hamas, you have Hamas listed as a terrorist organization. They don't get $4 billion a year from you. They don't have military aid and support and so on. So that is established. You're saying that Israel is a democracy. It's a country that abides by international law. I'm asking you, the cutoff of water, electricity, food, and medicine is considered a war crime. Do you call on Israel to cease its effort now in cutting off?
I mean, he's bam. 2 million people. 2 million people. And they're not just cutting all this off, they're bombing them into oblivion right now.
Medicine,
Let
water,
me start by saying that we are
aid.
in the early days of Israel's response. Israel has a right to conduct an aggressive response, to respond to the terrorism that's been committed against its citizens. We expect them to follow international law. We believe that they will, and we will remain in close contact with them about it.
You believe they should not intentionally target civilians. That's one. Second, do you have any idea on the number of Palestinians killed by Israel in the last 4 days?
I have seen public reports.
What are these?
I am not going to speak to the Saeed, I'm going to speak to what the U.S. government can verify, which I've done with the number of U.S. citizens. I will let Israel speak to the number of Israeli citizens that have killed, as well as the number of Palestinians that have killed.
The 14 that the president spoke about are Palestinian Americans?
I don't have any degree whether they are Palestinian Americans, whether they're dual citizens. It ultimately doesn't matter to us. American citizens are American citizens.
My last question to you, Matt. I mean, the president said that Hamas is motivated, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, motivated solely by the quest to kill Jews. Do you believe that is to be the case? Is it the assessment of this government that Hamas' sole motivation is to go out and kill Jews? There's no context. There's no siege that has gone on for 16 years. There's no raid after raid by the Israelis.
Saeed, I am just going to say that is a bit of a surprising question after what we saw Hamas carry out this weekend. When we saw Hamas go in and deliberately target Israeli citizens and not just soldiers in the IDF, but women, children, kidnap them. We all saw the images across our television screens of Hamas behaving in the most inhumane way possible. So I won't speak to their motivations, but I think they're pretty clear. Let me move on. Go ahead.
Is there another context?
Thank you very much, Matt. I have a question about the U.S. role, potential U.S. role.
So let's just pause it. And Joe Biden, as we played it, I said the only purpose of this organization is supposedly to kill Jewish people. And obviously, one journalist challenged that. And again, to challenge that notion that there's other motivations other than the hatred of Jewish people and to kill Jewish people, well, that's absurd in the post-truth world.
We clearly would be concerned about any country that is providing support to Hamas, whether it be financial, whether it be military, and would look to counter that action. And we do it first and foremost by making sure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself against the recent terrorist attacks.
Does Israel have a right to kill civilians? Does Israel have a right to kill civilians,
I'm going to
Matt?
call on the way we do it in this briefing room, and you and I
Is
had this,
that you pick whoever you want to pick
before,
whenever you want to pick
is I
them.
call on people and they ask questions, and
I'm a potted plant.
Go ahead.
Yesterday, Secretary Blinken deleted a tweet.
Good for Husseini. He's a journalist. He deserves to be called on.
We have made very clear that we do not have any grievance with the Palestinian people. As I have said from this podium a number of times, we support steps that improve the livelihoods, improve the dignity of the Palestinian people.
They're being bombed, and you're totally silent, and you're giving Israel a green light. This is absurd, Matt. Matt, this is completely absurd.
Excuse me. And we supply humanitarian aid that goes directly to the Palestinian people to benefit them. And I think the point that we would make, this is something the Secretary got into over the weekend. There are two paths forward for the region. There is a path of stability and conflict and normalization of relations with Israel. And then there is a path of death and destruction. And it is Hamas that favors that path of death and destruction. We do not have any quarrel with the Palestinian people, which is why we think it's important to continue to provide humanitarian aid that directly benefits them, not the terrorists the terrorists who ultimately are going to be responsible for the loss of many Palestinian lives.
But Israel is raining down death and destruction, and you're completely silent, Matt. It's beyond parody what you're doing. What you're doing is beyond parody, Matt. How can you live with
questions
yourself?
and answers. Go ahead. Israel has every right to respond forcefully to these attacks. It is
so. Thank God for guys like Husseini saying this is beyond parody and absurd. He's right. He's right. Okay? Period. Like, there is no doubt about it. It's just, once something happens, we say that their response is warranted no matter what that response is. Then we say we're giving the people dignity who have had their power cut off, their fuel supplies cut off, and their communications cut off. I don't know about you guys, but when I lose power for even a few hours, I am very frustrated. A few days, wow, well, that's a whole thing. Can you imagine a week, 2 weeks? Then, can you imagine being under military siege as it happens? Some people right now don't have to imagine any of those things.
what any country would do if they saw children being dragged away as hostages, if they saw children being slaughtered, if they saw people that were a music festival being gunned down en masse. Any country would respond forcefully. We support Israel's right to do it. We think it's appropriate to do it. They have to be able to defend and secure their country.
Any country would lay a siege?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, in March, you condemned Israel's finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, for calling for wiping the Palestinian village of Huwara off the map. This week, we've heard the defense minister of Israel, Yoav Gallant, declare that he's fighting human animals in Gaza as Israel cuts off the gas, the water, and the electricity. We've heard Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, declare that all hiding places will be turned to rubble in a besieged coastal enclave where there are 1 million children. We've heard Ariel Kalner, who is a member of Knesset from the ruling Likud party, call for a Nakba 2.0, which is essentially a call for genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians as 850 are dead in Gaza. So what do you think of that rhetoric in light of your previous condemnation?
Let me say a few things about that. Number one, we expect, as we said, that Israel will conduct its operations in accordance with international law.
And right now it's like, how dare you ask that question, Max? I am just shocked you would ask that question.
Number two, there are going to be a number of statements made over the course of this conflict, and when we have disagreements with them, we will make those known privately. Number three, though,
but you made them
let me just speak to this. Number three, some of the questions I'm getting today do seem to ignore the fact that Israel just had hundreds of its citizens killed, people who were taken hostage, and pretend that Israel shouldn't be able to conduct any kind
of... Okay, well, if you can't conduct genocidal rhetoric, do you acknowledge that 80 Palestinian children have been killed? Do you acknowledge that? Will you even acknowledge that?
Let me finish.
80 Palestinian children killed this week?
Again.
Babies? Do you acknowledge that?
You asked a question. I will answer the question.
Okay, well, that's my question.
So I'm going to start by answering the previous question that was interrupted.
Okay.
I will say some of the questions seem to pretend that Israel should not be able to conduct operations to defend itself and hold accountable the terrorists who killed civilians. That is not Israel's policy. That is not our policy. It is something that we would vehemently disagree with. Israel has the right to secure its country the way any country does. It has the right to defend itself against terrorism. It has the right to hold terrorists accountable. And I will say, ultimately,
Are babies terrorists? Are all 2 million of these people terrorists? Well, they're being held accountable. Let me tell you. They're being held accountable. We got to take another break. We're going to come back to the final segment of the first hour. Remember, the second hour today will be at my Rumble channel. And, you know, I might just run it through on YouTube today. Why not? I don't think we've got any you biggada boggada boogada biggada talk today. At least we're gonna try not to discuss that stuff. That's look. Maybe we'll even do a Q&A. I'll take the questions from the YouTube chat. So if you got questions and comments, now's the time to start to roll through them. I'll take a note of where we are. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back to the first hour. It's Reality Rants. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share.
When I invented MyPillow, my passion was to help each and every one of you. And 20 years later, all of your support is what keeps us going. Because of you, we've been able to create thousands of USA jobs and help millions get the best sleep ever. To thank you, my employees and I are bringing you a limited edition MyPillow. The Giza Elegance MyPillow is made with my patented adjustable fill, the most amazing cotton, and a 2-inch pipe gusset. It has 4 custom loft levels, machine washable and dryable, and you get my 60-day money-back guarantee and 10-year warranty.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your limited edition 20th anniversary MyPillow queen size. Retails for $69.98, now only $19.98. That's right, get a queen size MyPillow for only $19.98.
From all of us here at MyPillow,
thanks America!
All right, everybody, thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. After this, we're probably going to play the Israeli section of Fabled Enemies, because once again, when I see nation states that are carrying out covert black operations in this country successfully, partnering with our military industrial complex and part of the track trace database network of spying on everybody, yeah, I'm skeptical how this happened. Wow, he's got questions. He doesn't think babies can be enemy combatants. He doesn't think that all civilians in Gaza are terrorists and deserve some kind of repercussion for some kind of military operation by Hamas. Like again, going back to what I said, like I've got the Rock Island Arsenal here. Plenty of military people. Military thing gets conducted, and they shut the power on all 400,000 of us because of them. That's horrible. Let alone all of a sudden raining down death showers. And then no acknowledgement whatsoever. Like, they're allowed to conduct operations. We're allowed to conduct operations. Wild.
The Hamas terrorists who launched these operations, there is no one who has more disregard for Palestinian civilian life than those terrorists. Because those terrorists, let me finish.
Not the people who killed
those terrorists 850
Palestinians, mostly civilians, bombing residential towers, bombing offices.
We seem to have a lot of new people. Those terrorists launched this activity knowing that there would be retaliation, knowing that Israel would have to defend itself as any country did, knowing that it would lead to the unfortunate loss of civilian lives.
They're not seeking the release of Palestinian captives in Israeli prisons.
Let me go. Go ahead.
That's amazing.
So baby killing is okay here.
Why can't you acknowledge the death
so
of
baby
Palestinian
killing is
children?
okay here.
You can't even acknowledge it.
We always mourn the loss of civilian life. It is an unfortunate circumstance every time it happens. And as I just said, the Hamas terrorists who launched this terrorist attack.
It's an unfortunate circumstance. You wonder why I cursed earlier and I got a little upset. It's unfortunate Dead kids are unfortunate circumstances. How fucking flippant is that? How much of a disregard for human life can you have? He didn't even say it in a genuine manner, like, it's an unfortunate circumstance of war. No, it's not a circumstance. It's a part of it. It's an inbuilt part of the whole thing. It's gross. Oh.
Knowing that it would produce the loss of not just direct Israeli lives, who they took in their incursions across the border, but also the loss of Palestinian civilian life. They ultimately bear the responsibility for those acts.
It took 36 minutes to do that. Will you call on Israel to not kill civilians?
I'm going to ask.
Will you call on Israel to not kill civilians?
I just did do that.
It's a simple question. Will you call on Israel to not kill civilians?
I would ask you not to talk over your colleague. Go ahead.
I can't make it simpler than that, Matt.
Will
you call on Israel to not kill civilians?
I just did.
You did. Could you say it? Could you say it in a complete sentence, please?
Go ahead. There was a little talking over you. Why don't you go ahead and go again, if you don't mind.
Look at that and they got smirkles while they do it. How can you sit up here and smile? Remember we had that guy, like same podium, different guy, laughing his ass off at you. In fact, I might have to find that live. We might have to play that in between playing the Israeli section. Hold on one second. The guy thought it was hysterical. Look, Gates, Tucker, MK Ultra, Migrant Crisis. Gosh darn it. Skabibbity bobbity boobity. Man, I'm looking. I don't want to do it live. Let's just go back to this wrap up as I look for it.
Latest U.S. assessment.
So we do believe that normalization of relations, not just between Israel and Saudi Arabia, but between Israel and other countries in the region, would help bring stability, would help bring peace, would help bring prosperity to the region. So it is a path that we will continue to pursue. The other path, as I said a minute ago, is the one outlined by Hamas, which is death and destruction. It is one of the goal of launching these terrorist attacks. And so we will not be deterred in continuing to pursue further normalization, which, as I said, we believe brings stability to the region.
You're normalizing war crimes here, Matt. You're normalizing war crimes. You're saying it's okay.
Again,
you're saying it's okay if they
stop putting words
strike
in my
down,
Thank you, Matt.
residential towers.
One quick question is that
we continue to support the current ceasefire lines and call for de-escalation of violence. It is crucial for all sides to maintain and respect ceasefire zones and to de-escalate violent activity to enhance stability in Syria and work toward a political solution to the conflict.
Will you urge Israel to not starve and slaughter people?
Thanks, everyone.
Will you urge Israel to not starve and slaughter people, please?
Gotta get Husseini back on. I gotta get Max on the show. That's something we definitely got to do. All right. So, towards the beginning of the show, we got a little texty. Towards the beginning of the show, I read the tweet I put out on the section of Fabled Enemies. And now we are going to play that section of Fabled Enemies, at least up until the first break. We'll run a commercial, then we'll have the second hour for you. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. Remember, RVM Rumble is normally where you'd find that second hour, but they're having technical difficulties right now. So I think we're going to keep it on YouTube, as well as all the other platforms out there, Rumble, Rockfin, etc. So without further ado, here it is, Israel, 9/11, and Fabled Enemies.
We interrupt today's programming to bring unfortunate...
Are you kidding me? So yet another... Boy, the downloading did not want to work too well today. Gotta tell you. Did not want to work too well today. So I guess what we got to do is we've got to do the same thing we just did for him. What is this? Yes. Very, very true. So let's see. Let's do it right now. Boom. Boom, boom. Sorry, guys. The technical difficulties continue. Here we go.
It was widely reported that men had been celebrating the attack after recording the first plane strike. They were not Al-Qaeda, but they were detained.
I grabbed my binoculars and I could see the towers from my window. And this is where I'm looking. And all of a sudden, down there, I see this van park. And I see 3 guys on top of the van. And I could see that they were like happy. They didn't look shocked to me. They didn't look shocked.
There was a group of Israelis, some of whom later were revealed as Mossad assets, who were arrested after cheering and high-fiving and videotaping the crash of the airplanes into the World Trade Towers.
Several other men were detained after a van full of explosives was stopped outside of Manhattan.
Earlier, we had heard that an FBI spokesperson said that there was a report on the George Washington Bridge, which is another facility which you folks are responsible for policing, a report that there had been a van stopped there that had explosives.
Asked this week about another sprawling investigation and the detention of 60 Israelis since September 11th, the Bush administration treated the questions like hot potatoes.
I would just refer you to the Department of Justice with it. I'm not familiar with the report.
I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained. With respect to why they are being detained and the other aspects of your question, whether it's because they are in intelligence services or what they were doing, I will defer to the Department of Justice and the FBI to answer that.
On March 6, 2002, a draft report from the DEA said it may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. Despite all of this, all the Israelis were let go without any espionage charges being filed. Fox News anchors Brit Hume and Carl Cameron would do a 4-part investigation into these allegations in December of 2001 and yield stunning results.
It has been more than 16 years since a civilian working for the Navy was charged with passing secrets to Israel. Jonathan Pollard pled guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage and is serving a life sentence. At first, Israeli leaders claimed Pollard was part of a rogue operation, but later took responsibility for his work. Now, Fox News has learned some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S.
Since September 11th, more than 60 Israelis have been arrested or detained, either under the new Patriot anti-terrorism law or for immigration violations. A handful of active Israeli military were among those detained, according to investigators, who say some of the detainees also failed polygraph questions when asked about alleged surveillance activities against and in the United States. Investigators suspect that the Israelis may have gathered intelligence about the attacks in advance and not shared it. A highly placed investigator said there are, quote, tie-ins, but when asked for details, he flatly refused to describe them, saying, quote, evidence linking these Israelis to 911 is classified. I cannot tell you about evidence that has been gathered. It's classified information.
Now, when the FBI investigated, it quickly unraveled to be the largest foreign spy ring ever uncovered inside the United States, the largest. Even the Soviet Union had not been spying on the United States as much as Israel has been doing. So the FBI started to round up these spies. They started to arrest them very quietly, and they were about halfway through this process of rounding up this spy ring when 9/11 happened.
Numerous classified documents obtained by Fox News indicate that even prior to September 11th, as many as 140 other Israelis had been detained or arrested in a secretive and sprawling investigation into suspected espionage by Israelis in the United States. Investigators from numerous government agencies are part of a working group that's been compiling evidence since the mid-90s. These documents detail hundreds of incidents in cities and towns across the country that investigators say, quote, may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. The first part of the investigation focuses on Israelis who say they are art students from the University of Jerusalem and Bezalel Academy. Documents say they, quote, targeted and penetrated military bases, the DEA, FBI, and dozens of other government facilities, and even secret offices and unlisted private homes of law enforcement and intelligence personnel. The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and/or explosive ordnance units. Why would Israelis spy in and on the U.S.? A General Accounting Office investigation referred to Israel as Country A and said, quote, according to a U.S. intelligence agency, the government of Country A conducts the most aggressive espionage operation against the U.S. of any U.S. ally.
The most aggressive. This is just scratching the surface. There's about 8 minutes to go. We are going to go to a commercial break. We're going to come back here for that second hour. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you after this break.
Attention Americans, breaking news. Biden's dangerous plan for a digital dollar is underway. Don't be fooled. It won't benefit you. Take action now. The Federal Reserve phased deployment of FedNow began on July 1st, 2023. Be prepared. This may catch many off guard. Your hard-earned assets are in jeopardy. But there's a simple legal tax loophole to opt out of the digital dollar. Reach out to American Alternative Assets for a free wealth protection guide and discover how to safeguard your wealth with gold and silver IRAs against a failing dollar and volatile markets. Visit protectfrombiden.com. This invaluable guide provides precise steps to transfer your IRA or 401k into precious metals without any tax consequences. Be smart. Don't let Biden force you into using the government's new digital dollar. Visit protectfrombiden.com to get your free guide and get started. Again, that's protectfrombiden.com.
All right, we are back, and we're going to go right back to this section within Fabled Enemies. Again, nation states, when they carry out these type of black operations, do so with a limited knowledge within their intelligence agencies and nation states, their assets, and other nation states' intelligence agencies and assets. It's outside of the actual nation state. That's the true nature of the cabal, and it allows for plausible deniability. And when they conduct a false flag, the irony is what? They point to different nation states as the ones that actually facilitated it. Because Iraq and Afghanistan, Jack, didn't have anything to do with 9/11. Just nothing. It's just not there. Even the people they sent over, okay? Even the people they sent over were from Saudi Arabia, and mainly through a consulate that was Central Intelligence Agency run. After the Central Intelligence Agency had directly worked with bin Laden and the Mujahideen prior against the Soviets. It's like open, like that. Mainline history. Just like it's mainline history. Everything you're seeing here about Israel and 9/11. It's not fiction. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not made up. I'm not David Blaine over here. It's magic. No. Documented. So this still isn't in the vast public arena as common knowledge yet. And this is very, 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 very adverse, opposite of the narrative that was projected on us 20 plus years ago, and now they're going back to. This is Israel's 9/11. How many times has 9/11 now been invoked after this? And I got to listen to all the lies again. Yuck. Gross. No thank you. So instead, we're going to challenge their great narrative of fiction with open source information, mainline history that shatters their lies. that shatters their lives, and hopefully has people taking a step back right now to question what the truck is going on and where it could lead us.
The document concludes, quote, Israel possesses the resources and technical capability to achieve its collection objectives.
What about this question of advanced knowledge of what was going to happen on 9/11? How clear are investigators that some Israeli agents may have known something?
Well, it's very explosive information, obviously, and there's a great deal of evidence that they say they have collected. None of it necessarily conclusive. It's more when they put it all together. A bigger question, they say, is how could they not have known? Almost a direct quote, Britt.
It is now apparent that this intelligence ring was inside the U.S., had prior knowledge of 9/11, and had a classified role in 9/11, which officials refused to discuss. It was also able to penetrate U.S. intelligence agencies and secret offices, yet all were released. The men who were detained due to the report they were taping the first plane crash and then celebrating and joking about it actually went on television and admitted it was their job to record the attack.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is, we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
How could they have known about the attack? And who sent them to document it? The evidence points to a large intelligence network.
And by the way, guys, you know, I want to just take that back just a second here, just a little bit. Number one, you got these guys that are on talk shows, right? Telling you they were there to document the event. You know that they're part of a ring from the prior information that was rounded up before and after 9/11. You know there are no criminal charges. That should set off alarm bells. And, you know, every time I talk about 9/11, I want to just show this here.
How could they have
known
I hear about
ghost planes and no planes
and who sent
this and that. And, you know, I watch videos like this, which, you know, I've watched I watched every single video over and over and over and over and over and over and over. 9/11, I can't even tell you how much research I did. Planes hit the towers. Just, you know, there are just some things I put out there. Anything's possible. What's probable? What does the evidence actually suggest? I'm just telling you what I think, I guess. You know, I've been wrong before.
A minute. The evidence points to a large intelligence network inside the United States that had teams on the ground, such as the ones recording the attack, and electronic surveillance teams gathering information. Another team who was involved that day detonated explosives on the ground.
We have both suspects under K. We have the suspects who drove in the van, the van exploded.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you and your guys are all right over there, K, that's all.
You know, we have both Geotrans driven that exploded.
What location?
King Street between 6 and 7.
Shooting is on the scene on King 6 and 7. What unit are you?
How would these teams obtain their information?
Also, never discussed. You know, a lot of people talk about the van that got pulled over and they arrested people, and, you know, the bomb sniffing dogs had things go off, but they didn't find anything. They don't talk about the exploding van on King Street.
Investigation on our side basically tracked back to two companies. The first one was called Amdocs. This is an Israeli-owned company which does the billing for 90% of the telephone companies inside the United States.
Fox News has learned that some American terrorism investigators fear certain suspects in the September 11th attacks may have managed to stay ahead of them by knowing who and when investigators are calling on the telephone. How? By obtaining and analyzing data that's generated every time someone in the U.S. makes a phone call.
One sitting in city, please.
Here's how the system works. Most directory assistance calls and virtually all call records and billing in the U.S. are done for the phone companies by Amdocs Limited, an Israeli-based private telecommunications company. Amdocs has contracts with the 25 biggest phone companies in America and more worldwide. It is virtually impossible to make a call on normal phones without generating an Amdocs record of it. In recent years, the FBI and other government agencies have investigated Amdocs more than once. Sources tell Fox News that in 1999, the super-secret National Security Agency, headquartered in northern Maryland, issued what's called a top-secret, sensitive, compartmentalized information report, TSSCI, warning that records of calls in the United States were getting into foreign hands, in Israel in particular. Fox News has learned that the NSA has held numerous classified conferences to warn the FBI and CIA how Amdocs records could be used.
So if you know the name of a police officer, or even if you know the name just of an informant, you can follow that network of who's talking to who and basically determine that whole association of names and contacts that represent that unit of operation.
Fox News has documents of a 1997 drug trafficking case in Los Angeles in which telephone information, the types that Amdocs collects, was used to, quote, completely compromise the communications of the FBI, the Secret Service, the DEA, and the LAPD.
Amdocs would not be the only company with ties to the Israeli government. Israel was also gathering information from a separate business, Converse Infosys, who was also listening in.
This company, inside the United States, installs and maintains the phone tapping equipment that law enforcement and the government use to eavesdrop on your phone calls.
The company is Converse Infosys, a subsidiary of an Israeli-run private telecommunications firm with offices throughout the U.S. It provides wiretapping equipment for law enforcement. Here's how wiretapping works in the U.S. Every time you make a call, it passes through the nation's elaborate network of switchers and routers run by the phone companies. Custom computers and software made by companies like Converse are tied into that network to intercept, record, and store the wiretapped calls, and at the same time transmit them to investigators.
We know we just had this FISA bill go through that granted immunity to the telecom companies. It was Converse Infosystem that was setting up all these special rooms and all the switching centers where the law enforcement or the government or whoever could simply push a button and listen to your phone call. Gone are the days of the little alligator clips and wires needed to eavesdrop on a phone call. They can sit in a room anywhere in America, touch a few buttons, and listen to your phone call.
But the complaint about this system is that the wiretap computer programs made by Converse have in effect a backdoor through which wiretaps themselves can be intercepted by unauthorized parties. Adding to the suspicions is the fact that in Israel, Converse works closely with the Israeli government and under special programs gets reimbursed for up to 50% of its research and development costs by the Israeli Ministry of Industry and Trade. But investigators within the DEA, INS, and FBI have all told Fox News that to pursue or even suggest Israeli spying through Converse is considered career suicide. And sources say that while various FBI inquiries into Converse have been conducted over the years, they've been halted before the actual equipment has ever been thoroughly tested for leaks.
So I just want to emphasize that obviously, you know, again, this is like 20 years ago now, 20 plus, that report from. But they had a track, trace, database, spy system then. It's only gotten more integrated and much more efficient, okay? And to think that Five Eyes could somehow, some way not have picked up communications for this attack, I just cannot believe it.
More to the point, agents within the U.S. government have been told point blank that to even suggest Israeli spying or an Israel link to 9/11 is career suicide. It's been described as the third rail of American politics. If you touch it, you die. You never get to come back again. It's all over. It's the black pit where you can never go.
But there is a bitter turf war internally at FBI. It is the FBI's office in Quantico, Virginia that has jurisdiction over awarding contracts and buying intercept equipment. And for years, they've thrown much of the business to Converse. A handful of former U.S. law enforcement officials involved in awarding Converse government contracts over the years now work for the company. Numerous sources say some of those individuals were asked to leave government service under what knowledgeable sources call troublesome circumstances that remain under administrative review within the Justice Department. And what troubles investigators most, particularly in New York in the counterterrorism investigation of the World Trade Center attack, is that on a number of cases, suspects that they had sought to wiretap and surveil immediately changed their telecommunications processes. They started acting much differently as soon as those supposedly secret wiretaps went into place.
Somehow, suspected terrorists who were being surveilled by these very Israelis were able to change their behavior to elude the FBI. Israel's former Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, would boldly state that we are benefiting from one thing, and that is the attack on the Twin Towers and Pentagon.
The United States has wholeheartedly supported essentially state-sponsored terrorism, both domestically in Israel and as part of Israel's foreign policy. The American relationship with Israel is the root cause of most of the problems the United States is facing around the world today.
Well, I would say this, that there's one big elephant in the living room. It's never asked about. People don't like to put it on any video or anything like that. But it is the relationship between the United States of America and the State of Israel. It's the fly in the ointment. It's gotten us into a peck of trouble in the Middle East.
There you go. I put it in the video, Ray. It's right there. Oh, boy. I want to hit some of these other stories I had for the day. And then perhaps we'll do the Q&A. We haven't done the Q&A in a while. Okay? We haven't done that in a while. Let's see. Ex-Barclays boss Jess Staley is fined $1.8 million and banned from Citi over Jeffrey Epstein scandal. I mean, it's just a couple million banned from the, the FCA said Mr. Staley approved a letter sent by Barclays to the regulator, who claimed the bank's former boss did not have a close relationship with Epstein, who killed himself in prison in 2019. In reality, Mr. Staley had described the pedophile financier in emails as one of his deepest and most cherished friends. You gotta love when reality meets the illusion that you're trying to project. Barclays said the following: the FCA's decision, it had decided Mr. Staley was ineligible for or would forfeit bonuses and share awards totaling $17.8 million. It had already suspended all of... Can you imagine how much money this guy has? It had already suspended all of Mr. Staley's deferred bonuses and long-term share awards while the watchdog investigated. Like, there it is right there. You got Staley, you got Gates, you got Epstein, you got Summers. And Boris Nikolic is probably the only one that I'm unfamiliar with. Therese Chambers, Joint Executive Director of Enforcement and Market Oversight at the FCA, said a CEO needs to exercise sound judgment and set an example to staff at the firm. Mr. Staley failed to do this. We consider that he misled both the FCA and the Barclays board about the nature of his relationship with Mr. Epstein. Mr. Staley is an experienced industry professional and held a prominent position within financial services. You don't say. You don't say. Oh, what a world. What a world. Let's go on to the next one. Bitcoin. So some people are calling for $1 million Bitcoin. I don't buy it. $1 million. Who knows what the surge is going to be like? The halvening is coming. It's around the corner. I believe it's in November. Once the halvening comes, traditionally it has spiked quite a bit. But you got to remember, I told this story yesterday, not on air, but when Bitcoin was surging, right around the beginning of, or the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, when it was just to the moon, Bitcoin, to the moon. So much money had been printed in circulation that there were a lot of pump and dump scams via cryptocurrency, which people were making hand over fist, 100,000 coins, you name it. Doing it big, making big time money. Big time money, honey. And Bitcoin, again, it got up to like, what, 63K? Somewhere around there. And it was on that move. And I was at Tim Pool's place January 4th, right? And Luke was there, and he kept saying, Bitcoin to $1 million. Check it out. I'm like, no. I go, maybe it gets to 100,000. I go, but then it probably self-corrects after. Instead, it dipped all the way back down to 20. Never even came close. It hit that 63 mark and then dipped down to 20 rapidly. And a lot of new investors lost their lunch. I was talking to Mark Schaffline about it. And, these kind of traditional pump and dump schemes. And that's where it's at. So, look, Bitcoin's one of those things I'm not saying you shouldn't invest in. I just want to let you know it's super volatile. I don't know that it's going to 1 million. 1 million by 2026. $1 million. That's just... I don't know, man. Sounds a little iffy to this guy. But we'll see. It's been predicted for quite some time. Let's see. The mummies, yes. Exclusive. I've handled the Mexican alien mummies that set the world alight last month. I don't think they're aliens. I think they're something much scarier. What a clickbait bullshit headline. So basically, this person thinks that they are 1,000 years old and they are mummified, but instead what they are is they're like animals that were like put together. So they're like the bones. He thinks that might be an alpaca skull on the head there. And, it was some kind of like old school artwork. Bum, bum, bum. Just so ridiculous. I'm sorry, what I don't think they are is an alien life form. Look how little they are. Like little, who knows? Just even if they are a real thing. Just not I mean, they want you to think aliens. Why is this an alien? Look at this little guy. Little guy. All right. When cancer hits home, now scientists detect an even more toxic type of PFAS, forever chemicals, lurking in people's houses. These are the danger zones. PFAS everywhere. We want to know why cancer is exploding. We are being bombarded with toxicity. All right? Dust, electronics, paint. Look, water supply, food supply, the fact that we don't exercise, everything's heavily processed, chemicals everywhere, hormone disruptors. We're in a spot. Let's see. Did I get this one? No, I think that'll do her on that. So let's do it. Let's get to your questions and comments. We haven't had a nice Q&A in a while. And by the way, guys, I'm going to be hosting fights. I'll be the commentator tomorrow night, and on Saturday night, Pat Miletich makes his return. I may do a broadcast tonight with Fitch if he's got the time, and I'll give everybody a pay-per-view link if you want to watch that, if you want to hear me talking it up while people fight it up. Yeah. So let's see what we got. Here. Let's see. I get that these guys were trying to get him saying that innocent civilians shouldn't be killing Israel, but it kind of also seems that they are completely neglecting what just happened in Israel. Again, I think that for those guys, they've accepted that and they put that out there. And listen, I'm not for what happened. I can't emphasize it enough. But 2 million people. 2 million. I'm just saying, 2 million. Will they be allowed to attend another press conference? I don't know if they'll let Blumenthal in. Husseini goes to a lot of them. Again, we've had Husseini on the show. Max Egan, Sam Tripoli, LOL. Suppose they broadcast a war and no one watched. I think the problem is that you need people to watch the real conflict in all aspects of it, so they get so disgusted that they want it to end. If you're bringing people limited information, it's always the recipe for disaster. Just just the way it is. Always the recipe for disaster. I'm up way too late. I got a decent amount of sleep last night. Jason, what do you think about the potential for lockdowns related to terror threats? Also, the Call of Duty franchise has been known for predictive programming. What do you think? As far as Call of Duty, I've never really played the ones outside the World War II ones from like 20 plus years ago. I have like the whole collection. And maybe, I've thought about like just a run through all those first person shooters, but then I never get to it. I have so many video games, guys. Back in the day when I was first working for Jones at InfoWars, I'd kind of given up on it and kind of poo-pooed it. But then, I was a big movie buff. Then movies and television started getting awful. And I went back to video games for immersive entertainment. But at the same time, I really don't have that much time for either. So there are certain aspects of pop culture I never get into. As far as lockdowns related to terror threats, let's hope not. If we're talking anything nuclear, however, or dirty bomb, you never know at this point. Everything's off the table or on the table. Let's see. I came in late. Richard Grove would have excellent questions. I love Richard Andrew Grove. Think he's great. Playing the DVD. Yes, we love the Fabled Enemies. It's free, by the way, on all the platforms you're watching. Whether you're watching on YouTube, which is getting the second hour today. You're getting the second hour. Can you believe it, YouTube? How about that? And Rumble and Rockfin as well. Let's see. Who loves you and who do you love? Thumbs it up. That's right. Cutting the power just makes those moving in supplies more noticeable and easier to track phones still working. I remember all these reports when it happened, talking about the 9/11 Israeli reports. Richard wouldn't be allowed near there. You never know. You'd be surprised. You know what? It's funny, like, who is it? Patrick Howley and another gentleman from National File just got Dan Crenshaw. My ex-girlfriend, Alicia Powell, up at the Capitol, has been getting a lot of mainline politicians and questioning them on January 6th, another issue that is extremely important. And that's what's frustrating, right? Like a guy like Dinesh D'Souza, going back to that, understands why it's dangerous to go after January 6thers, but then makes the excuse. He literally made this excuse. Oh, since they're so focused on domestic terror and January 6th, they just messed up on the Israeli thing. No, man. They allowed that to happen while they go after their political enemies because it was always set up for us. It was always set up for us. Let me say it again. It was always set up for us. All of us. Okay? Oh, let's see. I was recalling that the Rodney King video was recorded by an Israeli spy and handed off to his neighbor. Am I right about that or am I crazy? I've never heard that. That is the first time I have ever heard that. I'll tell it's so beyond what I think about that incident that hey, we'll do it live. Israeli spy Rodney King. See if anything comes up. We'll even go to DuckDuckGo. It's nothing right there. In plain view, video evidence. Man, I don't see any of it. It was a plumber. Okay? How a plumber altered history by taping the Rodney King tag. George Holliday is the person that supposedly did this. So I'll even type in George Holliday, Israeli spy. Or Israel. How about that? George Holliday, Israel. See if there's any rabbits. Let's see. KCAL News. The man, he's dead, huh? Young. I guess he wasn't that young at that time. So really it's just, he died of COVID too. Lovely. What's this Israel's ground operation thing? No, this is a 28-second video. There's no way. Just click it. Nope, see, that's what I'm saying. We're just getting the stuff on the ground operation out there. So no, Blue Unicorn, I really don't believe there's anything to what you just said. Show it to me. Let's see. And hand it off to his neighbor. They knew about 9/11, but not this. I got it. Otigo Software, the DEA. The Hawaiian guy is Michael Rivero. Let's see. Yes, Rivero indeed. Send some love. Yes, the Buy Me a Coffee's out there. Thank you for everybody who has supported me. redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. I've got, hopefully, Harrison Smith coming up today. That's going to be something that we put out there in the premium this weekend. And I got to get a second one. Got to find a second one. Harrison Smith, though, doing some really great work over at Infowars.com. We should probably have a great conversation. Can't see it any other way. Tread carefully, brother. Use discernment, not feelings and emotions. Correct. We've calmed down quite a bit. But again, look at what I'm dealing with over here. Look what's trending. Day of Jihad. Oh, it's Shapiro. I can only imagine what Ben Shapiro has said about any of this. Just makes me wanna vomit. Vomitas. Let's see. Working group that did it. My computer is changing every day. Where is my stuff? I don't know, Terry. Great job as always, Jason. Thank you, Tristan. I remember hearing something like that. Karen, again, I haven't seen it. Jason is the best of all times. That's funny. McCarthy was right. I don't know what Kevin McCarthy said in that context, if that's who you're referring to as McCarthy. Best history teacher ever is here. I mean, I loved history as a kid. That's what I thought. I couldn't find anything on the interwebs about it, though. Like, it's got sanitized. Please show me anything about it. Let's see. Stay pesky, folks. Speak for those who have no voice. Try to enjoy your weekend. I agree. Let's see. Compartmentalized. We are all crazy then, Blue? I don't know. Let's see. Israel's 9/11 is almost as bad as January 6th. Like, I don't know about all that. I mean, as far as I know, on January 6th, you've got Boylan, you've got Babbitt being killed, but I haven't seen anything to contest the idea that people weren't killed at that music festival and taken hostage. Now, whether or not, like, the baby killing and the raping and a lot of the more extreme stuff that's come out there is 100% true, I haven't verified it. Certainly not contesting that it could be true. I have no knowledge. Just saying. Let's see. Oh, with the mural is the reference to the van that exploded. Supposedly had a mural on it of a plane flying into the World Trade Center, believe it or not. I know that sounds wacky. That sounds wild. Let's see. YouTube X's out. Everything we're talking about is not real. We are writing a screenplay that we are going to make into a movie. Please don't shut down the internet. Don't know what we're talking about. You lose. Let's see. Oh, are we at the bottom? We are at the bottom, everybody. Guess we're there. So that's it. Let's see what else we got going on. People are retracting messages. You can only go down as far as the screenplay. Try disconnecting the gas company going on 4 months. No kidding. Update on the Paradise and Panama Papers. No clue on that. Let's see if we got anything. We're going to go full screen over here. Let's see if we got anything on the Rumble sauce. Let's see. We'll go over to Rumble and see what they're saying over there. You won't be able to see this one, though, because I don't have it quite framed up. Actually, I guess I could pop it up there, but no, why not? If this war escalates, we escalate. This will just wake up more people. LG is disgusting. YouTube says you can't play the video in your browser. Really? Is that not going? What do we got? We got Mikey Bettendorf. Boom. Let's see, Constitutional Republic. Nothing like a gravy train with biscuit wheels there. We got about 20 minutes in the show. How should we do it? I've got this Australia to debank clip. Let's go there.
The National Australia Bank has introduced new terms of service where customer accounts will be closed where the customer has engaged in online mean speech. You must immediately get away from the National Australia Bank. Go close your accounts or you'll be at the supermarket and your debit or credit card suddenly won't work. You go to the ATM to get cash and that won't work. Even worse, you might be interstate or overseas and your banking is gone without notice. You're left high and dry. What on earth is a bank doing delving into your communications, opinions or views? It's absolutely none of the bank's business. It has nothing to do with banking. It's time banking licenses of rogue banks get pulled. Our politicians and regulators listening to this, we hope you are, or the public will come for you too. Banks are issued banking licenses as privileges to serve the community. When they stop behaving like banks and want to become thought and speech police, it's time their banking licenses are withdrawn. In the meantime, if you're with the National Australia Bank, close your accounts. Indeed, be watchful if you're not with the NAB to ensure your bank doesn't follow the path of the National Australia Bank. Now listen to the following report. Australia is a laughingstock.
National Australia Bank adds mean speech to debanking criteria. So the story comes to us from thecountersignal.com, and it confirms the National Australia Bank, the NAB, that has updated its terms and conditions to inform customers that they're no longer allowed to say mean things. Yeah, right. Yeah, we can't allow you to push out mean tweets. We're going to have to debank you. That's what they're doing. Here it is. The entire Commonwealth is compromised, tweets out Lion Advocacy. Look into dual citizenship and consider moving your savings to countries that respect property and speech. Because here's the rule. Here's the new rule. That unacceptable electronic banking use policy has now been renamed the Unacceptable Account Conduct with NAB's personal transaction and savings accounts and electronic banking services policy. But you do understand that Australia and New Zealand in particular, they're like New World Order testing grounds for all the tyranny they want to unleash upon all the other countries, well, at least the Western countries.
So what I want to do now is I want to, because I don't want people to think, oh, Jason, you're just coming down on Israel. No, this is an international intelligence deal. And just like there are aspects of that nation state that are working with other aspects of other nation states in this rogue organization, you have the ISI, and you have the Pakistanis, and you have the Muslim world. And the ISI has been a conduit, okay, for that type of funding and those type of operations. That has to be noted as well. All right, so I feel like that section, especially because Joe Biden is in it, is another, especially Joe Biden in power after his poopy pants speech where he could barely speak. Okay, we also have to understand that it's not just the Israelis. Okay, you have people in that Arab world that are in these same circles. Again, why I think there's somebody on the inside that pushed this for outside forces. And of course, somebody on the inside in Israel to allow it to happen. Okay? A few people on probably both ends. And of course, it's so funny. Just can't win. Here we go. Yes.
Confirmation of these allegations against Israel would finally come in January of 2008, when the Times Online would tell FBI whistleblower Sibel Edmonds' story. This Turkish translator for the FBI found an international spy ring that included Israel, Turkey, and Pakistan working with household names within the United States. She was gagged and to this day has been unable to tell her entire account. Edmonds stated that one high-level official was aiding foreign operatives against U.S. interests by passing them highly classified information, not only from the State Department, but also from the Pentagon, in exchange for money, position, and political objectives. The article stated that the Turks and Israelis had planted moles in military and academic institutions which handled nuclear technology. The Pakistani operation was led by General Mahmoud Ahmed.
You see how it works with moles, multiple agencies, etc., multiple intelligence services, etc.
Then the ISI chief. Intelligence analysts say that the members of the ISI were close to Al-Qaeda before and after 9/11. Ahmed was accused of sanctioning a $100,000 wire payment to Mohammed Atta, one of the 9/11 hijackers, immediately before the attacks. Oddly enough, General Ahmed would be in Washington, D.C., meeting with George Tenet, the current director of the CIA, and others, in the weeks before the attacks. In fact, on the morning of 9/11 itself, he would be having breakfast with Senator Bob Graham and Porter Goss. These two men would co-chair the initial congressional investigation, and Goss would later become the head of the CIA.
I was trying to make the point that Ahmed didn't hide the fact, when we met with him in Pakistan and when he was in Washington, that he was close to the Taliban, that was his job, to be close to the Taliban.
Graham would go on PBS and have this to say.
I was surprised at the evidence that there were foreign governments involved in facilitating the activities of at least some of the terrorists in the United States. I am stunned that we have not done a better job of pursuing that to determine if other terrorists received similar support, and even more important, if the infrastructure of a foreign government assisting terrorists still exists. Most of that information is classified, I think overly classified. I believe the American people should know the extent of the challenge that we face in terms of foreign government involvement.
In that report, 27 pages would be completely redacted.
And do you think that will ever become public? Which countries are talking about?
It'll become public at some point when it's turned over to the archives, but that's 20 or 30 years from now. We need to have this information now.
Are you suggesting that you are convinced that there was a state sponsor behind 9/11?
I think there is very compelling evidence that at least some of the terrorists were assisted, not just in financing, although that was part of it, by a sovereign foreign government.
The day after the attacks, it was apparent that some people within the government were aware of the Pakistani funding of Al-Qaeda.
Secretary Powell, one country you didn't mention was Pakistan, and I understand that your deputy has spoken with the ambassador to Pakistan.
Deputy Secretary Armitage did meet with Pakistani officials today. It would be useful to point out to the Pakistani leadership at every level how helpful they might be if we find a basis to act upon that information.
Senator Joe Biden, who had also met with the head of the Pakistani ISI, would have harsh words on the Senate floor.
And the word should go out to those who pretend that they wish to be our friends, that they're going to have to make some very difficult choices. Pakistan in particular is going to have to make a very difficult choice very soon. Words will not be sufficient. Actions will be demanded.
When Biden was confronted, he confirmed his meeting with Ahmed, saying Pakistani intelligence was indeed funding the Taliban.
Sir, one question. In the days following 9/11, you met with the head of Pakistani ISI, General Mohammad Ahmed. It has since come to light that he ordered Saeed Sheikh to wire $100,000 to Mohammed Atta. Why was he allowed to go back to Pakistan, and why wasn't he questioned, and why were you meeting with him?
I met with him to deliver a message that if he didn't stop supporting the Taliban, we would take him out.
Why did we let him go? We let him fly freely. We never investigated him. We never even looked into him.
Look, there's a thing called diplomatic passports. We did not arrest Khrushchev when he came.
But he financed the hijackers, and you let him go, and he's free. He hijacked the hijackers.
No one knew he financed the hijackers.
It's wired. It's reported.
He would later state that the information was indeed classified.
How did you know the ISI was helping the Taliban, sir? How did you know they're helping them? It is classified?
Pakistan was set up as the silent funding arm of the hijackers. They were used as a launching base for the occupation of Afghanistan. To review, we have just learned that many of the hijackers had ties to U.S. military installations, the FBI, and the CIA, that both Israel and Pakistan have classified roles in 9/11 to this day, and the man who co-chaired the initial investigation into 9/11 stated this information would be classified for at least 20 to 30 years. Virtually none of this information was in the 9/11 Commission report. Instead, you are expected to believe that Osama bin Laden carried out the attacks alone. Yet 2 wars and 7 years later, he's still on the loose. The bipartisan commission was full of insiders who whitewashed the events of that day to the point it was comical.
5 years after the horrors of 9/11, there's a new way to look at those unforgettable images. Through color, caricature, and captions, comic book veterans Ernie Colon and Sid Jacobson have brought to life the 9/11 Commission Report. It took a year and a half to distill 600 pages down to less than 150.
When you hear about the idea of the 9/11 Commission Report as essentially a comic book, your first reaction is, what are you, crazy?
It's accurate. I mean, the graphic version is accurate. That's what happened.
Thomas Keane was the co-chair of the commission with Lee Hamilton. They would write a book together called Without Precedent. In it, he would claim that NORAD and the Pentagon did not tell the truth, and that indictments were considered. If the report itself wasn't accurate, how could the comic book be? Thomas Keane is now traveling the country in order to instruct teachers on how to teach 9/11 to their young, impressionable minds. The 9/11 Commission was such a cover-up that Max Cleland, an appointed member, went off on Wolf Blitzer.
A deal announced yesterday between the White House and the commission investigating the September 11th attacks is proving to be rather controversial. Under the agreement, only certain members of the commission will be allowed to review classified documents from the White House, and their notes will be subject to administration review. Today, some relatives of people who were killed in the attacks criticized the agreement, and our next guest, who's a member of the commission, claimed the deal is disgusting. Former Georgia Senator Max Cleland, a Democrat, joins me here.
Well, you've used the word deal 3 times. I don't think the 9/11 Commission ought to be making deals with our own government under the responsibility we have from the Congress and our responsibility to the American people to get all the facts about all the commissioners. Look at those facts. Now, we've had to subpoena the FAA for those documents. We've had to subpoena NORAD for those documents. I'm in favor of subpoenaing the White House for the documents we need so that all the commissioners can get to see all the documents that we need. That's the only way we can face the American people and the families and say we have done a thorough investigation independently of the White House and the entire executive branch. The president has said only a minority of the commission can see a minority of the documents, and then they have to clear what they're going to say to the rest of the commission with the White House.
If you're one of those 4 that gets to see these documents, would that change your opinion?
No. They don't want any more eyeballs to see their documents than they can possibly get away with. It's a scam. It's absolutely disgusting.
Cleland would later resign.
Well, they have something to cover up, and the 9/11 Commission, of course, was a master cover-up. We know that. The question is what it was covering up.
I don't believe the reports on September 11th put out by the 9/11 Commission or by Congress. I've seen one put out by the 9/11 Commission, and it was basically hundreds of pages of nothing. It was very generic. It was very indirect, indistinct, devoid of facts, devoid of hard positions. It was things like mistakes were made. We need to improve human intelligence. This is nothing. I mean, it's like, yes, I stand for truth, justice, and the American way, but it was vapid. It was a waste of time and money, but gives the impression that, oh yes, the government is doing something, the government is studying the issue.
Well, what makes me really disappointed, and that's an understatement, is that Congress's role is oversight. And Congress, even today, you'll see members of Congress saying, well, we haven't implemented everything that the 9/11 Commission recommended. And the 9/11 commissioners have said that the administration obstructed them, lied to them?
The staff statements were described by various commissioners to be an indictment of the FBI in particular, but also an indictment of the CIA.
I don't think the chairman and I have ever characterized the staff statements as an indictment. It's possible others have done that. We have not. And Tom and I have heard repeated praises from people in your business, in the media business, thanking us for the quality of those statements.
I would second that, and by the way, I never, ever would correct the vice chairman, but I'm afraid I did characterize one of those statements as an indictment.
So how can you start with a document that you know is false and take that to the American people as a document by which Congress's accomplishments should be measured?
Dennis Kucinich would present 35 articles of impeachment against the Bush administration in June of 2008. He would stand before the House for almost 3 hours before reading the last few articles, which were regarding 9/11. He alleged that the administration had not acted on specific warnings prior to 9/11, that they had attempted to cover this information up, and they had tried to stop any commission from being organized in regards to investigating the attack.
Article 33. Repeatedly ignored and failed to respond to high-level intelligence warnings of planned terrorist attacks in the United States prior to 9/11. In his conduct while President of the United States, George W. Bush, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has both personally and acting through his agents and subordinates, together with the Vice President, failed in his constitutional duties to take proper steps to protect the nation prior to September 11th, 2001.
So the congressional report was redacted, and the 9/11 Commission is a cover-up. Yet our supposed leaders continue to propagate fear of the boogeyman and his disciples.
I do believe that Al-Qaeda has now made it part of their global effort to destroy everything we stand for and we believe in. I'm running for President of the United States because I believe the greatest challenge of the 21st century is that of radical Islamic extremism. I believe it's there. I believe it's all over the world. I believe it's a fight, a struggle between good and evil, everything we value and believe in versus everything that is evil that wants to destroy everything America stands for and leads. And I believe
it was an Osama bin Laden job with 19 people from Saudi Arabia.
So there it is. You know, when I watch stuff like that, when I watch establishment politicians and 9/11 gets reinvoked, and then I have people coming at me saying, oh, you're saying this because you're anti-Semitic, et cetera, et cetera. No, I don't like any of this. And that's why you have to show people not just the Saudi Arabian aspects or the Israeli aspects, but the Pakistani aspects. And then you got to show them the U.S. aspects. You got to show them the media aspects. And I mean, again, what did everybody learn the past several years during the COVID-19 84 nightmare? Did you learn that the media loves you and is totally honest with you? Did you learn the same about politicians? What did you learn? Something to take note of, something to question, something to have discernment on, everybody. Folks, we have come to the end of the week. Again, I do want to remind you, you can support me by going to redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. That's redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. For only $1, you can try it out for the first week, and then it's $10 a month, or lock it in for a year and support. For $100, save $20. I do appreciate everybody who has supported me. I want to remind everybody also that every single one of my documentary films is 100% free of charge. That's right, free of charge. And I want you to watch them. I want you to spread them out there. I want you to cut them up just like I did and send them to folks. Okay? I want this information in the public arena. We need more of it. That's the bottom line. So, guys, I absolutely love you. I want to thank you for joining me. I want to say for the umpteen millionth time that it's not about left or right. It will always be about right and wrong. And I will see you all on the flip side.